The indigo dye never quite washes out of the skin. But tonight, it's the dark smear of printer toner and the smell of ozone that makes Emily's hands shake. In the dead silence of the factory archives, her flashlight beam cuts through a cloud of dust to rest on a single, crumpled ledger. A document that shouldn't exist, filled with numbers that make the floor feel like it's dissolving beneath her boots. Outside, the rhythmic thump of a shredder begins to drone like a mechanical heartbeat, and the heavy thud of combat boots echoes in the hallway, moving closer to the door she thought she'd locked. A sudden, blinding flash of a security spotlight hits the window, turning the room into a cage of white light and jagged shadows. Emily lunges for the heavy iron door, but it's already swinging open. She isn't looking at a stranger. She's looking at the person she trusted most, holding a master key and a look of cold, predatory indifference, as the sirens of a distant police cruiser begin to wail over the North Carolina hills. She realizes the town's lifeline isn't just failing. It's being dismantled from the inside, and she is the only witness left to silence. The foreman's whistle shrieks through the din, and the looms stutter to a halt. A collective exhale ripples through the floor, shoulders slump, fingers unclench from levers, the air thick with the metallic tang of overheated gears. Harper wipes her palms on her apron, leaving streaks of indigo dye on the coarse fabric. The dye never washes out, not after years of pressing, folding, hauling. It stains the skin too. Blue half-moons under her nails, a permanent mark of the mill. A girl, no older than 16, stumbles past, her tray of bobbins wobbling. One slips, clatters to the concrete. Catches it before it rolls under a loom, her thumb brushing the girl's wrist. The skin there is raw, blistered at the base of each finger. "You're not dipping them in the oil again," says, voice low. The girl's chin trembles. It's the only way to keep them from sticking. Exhales through her nose, then pulls a tin of salve from her pocket. "Use this, and wrap 'em tighter next time." The girl nods, but her eyes flick toward the foreman's office. Follows her gaze. Mr. Hargrove stands in the doorway, his watch chain glinting as he taps it against his palm. The looms groan back to life, and turns away. But not before she sees the girl slip the salve into her own pocket, then reach for the oil canister again. The machines swallow the sound of M's sigh. She adjusts her goggles, the rubber straps digging into her temples, and steps back into the rhythm. The dye will keep, the blisters won't. Moves through the labyrinth of spinning frames with the practiced grace of someone who has spent half her life measuring time in yardage. The air is a heavy soup of cotton lint and industrial lubricant, a mixture that coats the lungs and settles into the pores of the skin. Every vibration of the floorboards serves as a pulse, a mechanical heartbeat that dictates the movement of her limbs. She checks the tension on a row of spindles, her touch light but clinical. To anyone else, the roar of the factory is a chaotic wall of sound. But to it is a symphony she can conduct. She hears the slight hitch in a bearing 3 rows over. She smells the friction of a belt before it begins to fray. As the morning shift bleeds into the afternoon, the heat under the corrugated iron roof becomes oppressive. Leads her crew with a quiet, unrelenting efficiency, her eyes constantly scanning the gauges. She signals a speed adjustment to the head engineer, a man whose face is permanently etched with the soot of the boilers. He nods, adjusting the steam valves. There is a sacredness to this order, a belief that as long as the machines keep turning, the town of Lamberton will keep breathing. But today, the rhythm feels brittle. Underneath the mechanical roar, there is a hollow resonance, like the sound of a drum with a cracked head. The shift ends not with the usual sense of accomplishment, but with a lingering tension that follows out into the Lamberton air. The town is a sprawl of weathered brick and damp pine, tucked into the North Carolina hills where the humidity clings to the skin like a wet wool blanket. As she walks toward the administrative wing, the silence of the town feels different, heavier. Outside the local bakery, she spots a cluster of men huddled over a morning edition of the Gazette. Their faces are grim, their eyes darting toward her with a sharp, jagged suspicion. "Bankrupt," a voice carries through the humid air, thin and venomous. The Harpers are dry, every damn account. Em stiffens, her fingers instinctively twisting the silver bracelet on her wrist. She ignores the stares, but the word bankrupt echoes in her mind, louder than the looms. At the local bank, a teller is already sliding a "closed for maintenance" sign into the window, despite it being only 2 in the afternoon. A group of weavers in stained overalls stands on the sidewalk, their shoulders hunched in a way that signals a brewing storm. The social fabric of Lamberton is fraying at the edges, and Em can feel the heat of it rising from the pavement. The situation reaches a boiling point at the factory gates. A wall of heavy steel and chrome blocks the main exit, 6 semi-trucks, their engines idling with a low, guttural growl that vibrates in Em's chest. Drivers in grease-stained vests lean against the grills, clutching sheaves of unpaid invoices. When Em approaches the leader, a man with a neck as thick as a tree trunk. She's met not with reason, but with a wall of hostility. "No check, no cotton," the driver barks, his breath smelling of stale coffee and resentment. "We've been hauling on credit for 3 months. No more." "I can speak with the comptroller." Em tries, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "If you just clear the lane." "The lane stays shut," the man sneers, stepping into her personal space. "Tell the Harpers to find their checkbooks or find a new way to move their thread." The anger is infectious. Inside the main floor, the tension finally snaps. The sound of tearing fabric, a violent, jagged rip, is followed by the dull thud of a fist hitting bone. Em rounds the corner of the spinning room to find 2 mechanics grappling on the oil-slicked floor. They are a blur of blue denim and gray dust, their shouts lost in the mechanical din. "Stop it!" Em screams, throwing herself into the fray. She grabs a handful of a mechanic's shirt, bracing her boots against the slippery concrete. A stray elbow grazes her cheek, a flash of white-hot pain blooming across her skin, but she doesn't let go. She hauls them apart with a strength born of pure desperation. We are still a factory. We are not animals. The men pant, their faces flushed with rage and shame. Silence falls over the room, but it is a poisonous quiet. Em wipes a smudge of grease from her face, her hair falling out of its tight bun. She looks at the faces of the women she has worked beside for years, and for the first time, she sees fear. Not for the work, but for the future. Her suspicion deepens when she tries to reach the director's office. The security detail, usually a group of bored men sharing jokes, has been replaced by a line of rigid figures in dark suits. They stand with their arms crossed, blocking the hallway to the executive wing. Em watches from behind a concrete pillar as the head of security hands a sealed, unmarked envelope to the driver of a black sedan idling in the courtyard. In the background, the rhythmic thump hiss of an industrial shredder begins to drone, a mechanical beast eating through years of records. She knows then that the answers aren't in the ledgers on her desk, they are in the dark. Midnight in the archive is a world of shadows and the scent of decaying paper. Em's flashlight cuts a narrow path through the dust motes, illuminating rows of gray boxes that stretch into the darkness like tombstones. Her heart hammers against her ribs, a frantic, rhythmic beat that seems loud enough to alert the guards. She finds the 2023 fiscal year box and drags it to the floor. The documents tell a story far different from the one told at the quarterly meetings. M spreads the production logs next to the tax filings. The numbers don't just lean, they collapse. Half the yardage produced is missing from the revenue reports. She finds invoices for Global Trans and North Path Logistics, companies she has never heard of, charging exorbitant rates for shipments that never arrived. "Oh God," she whispers, her thumb tracing a red deficit line that looks like a jagged wound on the page. The Harpers weren't just failing. They were being bled. The factory was a shell, a hollowed-out husk being stripped of its value while the workers were told to tighten their belts. A sudden flash of light hits her eyes, blinding her. "Lost your way, Harper?" The voice is low, gravelly. The head of security stands in the doorway, his silhouette tall and menacing against the hallway light. He taps a baton against his palm. "This area is restricted. Director's orders." "I was checking the inventory discrepancies," M says, her voice cracking. She tries to shield the papers with her body, but the man steps forward, his shadow swallowing her. "There are no discrepancies," he says, his tone a flat, dangerous warning. "There is only what you are told. Go home, M, while you still have a home to go to." She leaves, but the weight of the hidden folder beneath her jacket feels like a lead weight. The rain begins as she walks to her car, a cold, needle-like drizzle that does nothing to wash away the feeling of betrayal. She had given her life to this place. She had believed in the order of it. The next afternoon, she meets Arthur Winslow at the Pier Cafe. It is a place of dark wood and the smell of fried perch, far enough from the mill to feel private. Arthur is the picture of aristocratic calm, his Patek Philippe glinting under the cuff of his shirt as he reaches for his coffee. "We are doing everything possible, Emily," he says, his voice a soothing baritone. "The Senate is reviewing the textile subsidies. We just need time." M looks at the watch, the gold casing, the intricate engraving on the rim. It matches a description she saw in the equipment maintenance ledger, a luxury purchase disguised as a high-speed spindle part. The horror is a cold needle in her gut. Arthur isn't the savior. He is the architect. She returns to her office to find it a graveyard. The door hangs on one hinge. Her desk is a splintered ruin, her computer smashed into a heap of glass and silicon. On the wall, written in the same indigo dye she uses every day, are the words, "Curiosity kills." The violence of it sends her reeling. She retreats to the only place left, Arthur's own office, using a slim steel shim she kept from the maintenance shop to bypass the lock on his private safe. Inside, the truth is even uglier. She finds the Global Trans contracts. Every signature is Arthur's. Every kickback is documented in a neat, sociopathic hand. It's a shame, really. Arthur is leaning against the doorframe, a tablet in his hand. He doesn't look angry. He looks bored. With a single tap on the screen, he revokes her credentials. "You're an outsider now, Emily. A liability." He has already begun the counterattack. In the cafeteria, M tries to show the workers the copies, but they turn away. Arthur has already planted the seed that M is unstable, that she is the one who mismanaged the funds. She sees the master weaver, a man she's known since she was a girl, move his tray to another table. The isolation is a physical weight, a suffocating blanket of silence. The final blow comes on the night road. A heavy Cadillac, its lights off, slams into her rear bumper. The screech of metal on metal is the only sound in the dark woods. She is pushed toward the edge of the ravine, the tires spitting gravel into the abyss. At the last second, she slams the brakes, the Cadillac roaring past her into the night, heading toward the Winslow estate. She is alone, Her bank accounts are frozen, her reputation is a charred ruin, and the factory is being shuttered by judicial order. But as she sits on the floor of a damp, abandoned hangar, clutching the stolen files, the fear turns into something else. Something colder. The day of the town council meeting is thick with the scent of a coming storm. The square is a sea of angry faces, a mob looking for someone to blame. Inside the hall, Arthur stands at the podium, his voice booming through the speakers, painting Em as a thief and a madwoman. She took the pension funds. Someone screams from the gallery. A paper cup hits Em in the back. Arthur looks down at her with a mask of pity. She needs help, not a trial. Security, please remove her. The guards grab her arms, their fingers bruising her skin. They drag her toward the side exit, the crowd jeering. But then Em sees Martha, the wife of a man who has worked the looms for 40 years, crying in the front row. Martha is holding an eviction notice. The sight snaps the last of Em's restraint. She wrenches her arm free, a burst of adrenaline giving her the strength to shove the guard aside. She lunges for the judge's table, knocking over a crystal pitcher of water. The crash silences the room for a heartbeat. She reaches the microphone, her hair wild, her voice a raw, jagged blade. "Look at the numbers," she screams, slamming the files onto the table. "Look at the accounts in Zurich. Look at the name on the offshore deeds." Arthur whispers in her ear, his breath smelling of mint and malice. "I will bury you in a cell you'll never leave, Harper." "Then do it," she spits back, her eyes locked on the council chairman. "But read the papers first." The silence that follows is the heaviest of all. Mr. Burke, the chairman, puts on his glasses. He reads. He pales. The town accountant comes forward with the master keys. The police, already waiting in the wings, move in. The sound of the handcuffs clicking shut on Arthur's wrists is the most beautiful thing Em has ever heard. A week later, Em stands at the threshold of the main floor. The looms are silent, but only for a moment. Then, the first one groans to life. Then the second. The rhythmic thump-hiss returns, a heartbeat restored. She walks out into the Lamberton sun. People still watch her, their expressions a mix of shame and distant respect. She has no job, no savings, and a town that will never quite forgive her for being right. But as she breathes in the air, free of the indigo dye for the first time in years, she knows the factory is breathing too. And for now, that is enough.